Welcome back. You're still watching Business Morning on Channels Television, and we're broadcasting live from Lagos, Nigeria. Today on the program, we're going to focus on an initiative that the Central Bank of Nigeria has started to ensure that customers' deposits are protected. I'm talking about the CBN Biometric Data Capturing of all customers to ensure that their funds are protected. And so the first phase of it was actually started last year with the signing of the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Bankers Committee with the company who is going to ensure that they get the machines to actually start this project. And so last week, the eventual launch or the proper launch of the banker's verification number, which is also part of the biometric data capturing initiative of the Central Bank of Nigeria, was done. And so today on the program, we're going to be focusing on this, and we'll be talking to the Director, Banking and Payment System of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Dikbo Fatokun. He joins us live from our Abuja studios. And also here in Lagos with me is an economic analyst and Chief Executive Officer of UHY Maji and Co, Gabriel Idahosa. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Good morning.
Thank you.
Well, let's just start by getting your thoughts on this biometric data capturing initiative by the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Well, it's the extension of the CBN Know Your Customer principles, which requires banks to have comprehensive knowledge of each customer and avoid, first of all, so many similar names in the customer base that could lead to confusion. Like you have 10 people with the same name, or perhaps 100 people with the same name, Minu Mohammed and things like that. So the first reason for the Know Your Customer principle is to ensure that you identify each account holder to one person who is the real owner of the account. Now, before now, there have been various processes of doing that, from the picture, the name of the person, the mother's maiden name, and so many other things. But it appears that the CBN is not satisfied with the present state of the Know Your Customer principles and systems. So this biometric data capture is an extension of that process to a much higher level, where you are able to actually identify the owner of an account to just one person, adding the biometrics to all the other data they have about that person. So it's really to improve risk management on the part of the banks to ensure that they don't mix up customer details. There's also the other objectives of fighting fraud, because you want to identify who is the real fraudster who has committed a fraud through a bank account. People can open an account with fake names, with fake addresses, and so many things. So the biometrics helps you to actually add that biometric information to all the other information you have, and be able to, in fact, this is the person who has that account and has done anything on that account.
But you see, this has also raised a lot of questions as regards the duplicating of efforts. So just before we go to the Director of Banking and Payment System of the Central Bank of Nigeria, who is in Abuja, in our Abuja studios, and waiting to also join this conversation, let's quickly listen to what the Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Sanusi Lamido Sanusi said as regards this.
This is something that's done for the banking system, and it is available for being rolled into any other database. We hope that if you have by the time you have the national identity card system, if they want this data, they can have this data. And to be compatible, integrated into the national database. I'll be very honest with you, the reason we did this is that we got tired of waiting for other forms of identity to happen. You don't have a widespread passport system, a widespread driver's license system. You've also got horizontal and vertical inequalities. If you insist on a passport, then people who don't have access to passports cannot have an account. So this is to widen access. And the banks are paying for this, and the central bank. It's not a cheap project. We run it efficiently because we think we have the ability to implement. We have track records for implementation. When that is done, anybody who wants to ride on it can ride on it. But it reduces our dependency on other agencies. We're not relying on a telecoms company. We're not relying on a ministry to do it. We're doing it ourselves.
Well, that was the Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Lamido Sanusi talking about the reason why the Central Bank of Nigeria actually started this biometric registration. He says it's because they will be able to efficiently implement it, as that's why they've actually started it. Even Mr. Edosa, I'm not sure if you really got to hear that very, very clearly, but just hold on to this and let me get the reaction of the Central Bank of Nigeria representative who's actually in our Abuja studios. Thank you so much, Mr. Fatokun, for your patience, and thank you so much for staying with us on the program. Now, let me ask you that question again. Just before we had those issues and had to go on that quick break, the Central Bank of Nigeria Governor says that this project is not a duplication of what the National Identity Management Commission is going to be doing as regards the National Identity Card project. But most people feel that it is a duplication. But he says that the reason why this project has actually been embarked on is to ensure that banks get the information, the correct and proper information and data on all customers. And so the question is this not undermining the role of NIMSI?
Thank you, Harriet.
Well, Mr. Fatokun, if you can hear me, what I've been asking is that this project now that has been started by the Central Bank of Nigeria, is it a duplication? Is it not a duplication of what the National Identity Management Commission is going to be doing? Is it not undermining the role of NIMSI?
All right. Thank you, Harriet. It's not going to undermine the role of NIMSI because we have agreed and we are in discussion with the Nigeria Identity Management Company that whatever information is migrated to the bank verification number will ultimately be added to the information on the National Identity Management Card system. So the whole thing will be migrated. We are already working on that.
But if you say it's going to merge the information, that's like, it's still duplicating, because there isn't going to be any different information that will be given as regards capturing this data on the biometric project from what the National Identity Management Commission is going to be doing.
Yes, that.
I can hear you, Mr. Fatokun. Go on. Well, we'll get back to Mr. Fatokun in just a moment. Let me come back here to our Lagos studio where economic analyst Gabriel Dahosa is still with me. Mr. Dahosa, what are your thoughts on this? Just because we seem to be having an issue, speaking to Mr. Dipo Fatokun in our Abuja studios, but even though we've talked about it, and I seem to have asked this question like over and over again, it is a duplication or not what the Central Bank of Nigeria is doing as regards this biometric data capturing, because the National Identity Management Commission is supposed to be doing this National Identity Card project, and it's still going to be capturing the same data that the Central Bank of Nigeria is doing right now with this project. So what I'm asking is this not undermining the role of NIMSI?
Well, I think the point was made by CBN themselves that it is indeed a duplication, and that is why they are going to merge or transfer the data or give access to NIMSI, to their own data. The only real reason that you can accept from CBN is the fact that they cannot wait, that NIMSI has been too slow to set up its system and they want to get their system going. In the larger picture of managing the nation's resources, you will think that CBN will say, okay, NIMSI, you don't have enough resources to speed up your process. Here are our resources, if it is money, if it's our computer hardware, to help you speed up your process so that you have this information. So everyone that needs biometrics, whether it is the banks, whether it is the federal safety for driving license, whether it is INEC, whoever, even the Population Commission, whoever needs biometrics should get it from one source, which is NIMC. So the only real reason that CBN has given that is acceptable, not 100% acceptable, but is plausible, is the fact that they cannot wait, and therefore they want to move on with that.
Yeah, because some people have actually questioned the jurisdiction and a function of the Central Bank of Nigeria to actually undertake this project.
But I think that's a question that is obvious. CBN is not a data management business. It's not set up to capture data for anybody. Even the same CBN had told corporate bodies, if you want to open an account, you must get your TIN, your tax identification number. But it left the appropriate authority to issue that number, which was the Federal Revenue Service, Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS. So what the CBN should and could have done is to say to the bankers, you must ensure that every account holder has a biometric verification number, and say to the banks, go to NIMC and ensure that the customers have that account, that number for each account. The same way they have said all corporate bodies should get their TIN from the Federal Inland Revenue Service. So there is that issue, that question of propriety and the place in their doing it. But I think CBN just said, well, we cannot wait, and they go ahead and do it.
Okay, so we seem to have rectified the technical fault that we've been struggling in the last couple of minutes. So it's one of those days. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. But Dupe Fatoku is still very much with us on the program. He's the Director of Banking and Payment System of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Thank you so much, Mr. Fatoku, for your patience and for sticking around. Well, let's
Good morning, Harriet. Thank you.
Yeah, so let's just go on with this conversation. I just asked the economic analyst here with me in the studio, Mr. Gabriel Dahusa, whether he feels that the Central Bank of Nigeria has the jurisdiction and rights to actually undertake this biometric data project that it's doing right now. Can I get your thoughts on this?
Yes, thank you. Let's correct the impression that this project is only from Central Bank. Just as you said in the introduction to the program, you know that the project is from the Bankers Committee, but the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria is the chairman of the Bankers Committee. It's actually a Bankers Committee project. And as a member of the Bankers Committee, CBN is a major contributor to the program. Just as the guest over with you in Lagos said, Central Bank has waited. We have waited for this identity because it is something we need in the banking industry. And because it was not forthcoming early enough, that was why the Bankers Committee decided that they can fast-track the process by starting the bank's verification number for its customers. And when the other verification is done, then the two will be merged. That is, the bank verification number will be merged with the national verification number that is currently in progress. So it's not a duplication, it is a way of fast-tracking the whole process.
Well, Mr. Fatoku, the Central Bank of Nigeria on Friday with the Bankers Committee. Yes, well, for now, we'll get back to it in just a moment. On Friday last week, the CBN and the Bankers Committee, along with the partners, actually launched the Bankers Verification Number, which is supposed to be like a continuation of what they decided on the first phase last year. So we saw the second phase actually begin last week. We went to, we sought the views of some Nigerians on what they actually feel about this bank verification number. Listen to this and then we'll come back and continue this conversation.